Hey, what's going on, guys? XpertFusion here, and welcome to my Telltale The Walking Dead TV adaptation series. This is Season 3, Episode 9, which is titled Scorched Earth. So, I need to just preface by saying that this series is not going to stop. It's just going to be slower because there's a lot going on right now in real life for me, a lot of just writer's block for this series as a whole. So I'm just not going to have it be specific on certain days like I did before. I had it like specifically Tuesday and Friday. Now it's more so just going to be like whenever I can upload one, I will. That's kind of how I want to do it from now on. Maybe there'll be a point in time like maybe for spring break, which comes in March for me. Maybe I'll be able to push out like 4 videos in 1 week. That's possible, right? But keeping a consistent schedule for this series is going to be really hard, at least for this next month of February. February is a really busy month for a lot of different things, so don't expect too much in February. But once March comes around, and definitely once the summer comes around in May, expect a lot more. Not just for this series, I'm talking about the channel as a whole when it comes to Walking Dead, Call of Duty, whatever it may be. Expect a lot more later on. But just for now, I need to be doing things slower because I have a lot more in real life that I have to worry about. And to me is more important as of right now than YouTube. So, if you didn't want to hear that, I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I need to focus on other things more than I do with this. But I still want to make time for this. I still care enough to make time for this. Therefore, I will make time for this because I do love doing this. It's passionate. I'm passionate about it. I love doing it. It's just there's real life things getting in the way. So let's just get into this episode here because there's a decent amount within this episode that I would like to cover. So the episode begins. Of course, this is the mid-season premiere. We left off in mid-season finale. A lot of crazy shit happening. The episode begins with Carver walking through the streets. He is exhausted. It started raining a little bit as he comes across 2 walkers, and he uses a stick to kill them both. And he ends up having a flashback, so we get to see Carver, some backstory from him here. So Carver and his pregnant wife are driving through the streets right during the start of the apocalypse, and they are suddenly crashed into from someone driving through a stop sign, and Carver checks his wife after the crash, and her head is smashed into the dashboard with blood pouring out of her head. So she is dead. And he freaks out as the 2 guys in the car that hit them come out to see if they are okay. They are very apologetic about this whole situation, and they end up seeing Carver mourning over his wife's dead body. And he looks over to these guys angered, and the guys notice what happened, and the driver of that car is mortified and says he's so sorry. But Carver just gets up out of the car, goes after them, and attacks both of them. The guy's friend helps him out, but Carver takes a pocket knife and stabs the man in the throat. He freaks out after doing that, but he pulls out the knife and uses it to stab the other guy in the eye multiple times until he is dead. And back to present, we see Carver coming across the Civil War site. So that was some nice backstory with Carver. Basically how he lost his wife, his pregnant wife, early on in the apocalypse. We know that this is not just the start of him becoming crazy. He must have been crazy before this if he's willing to kill people like that, but understandably, I mean, they were the reason his wife died, so it kind of shows his mindset a little bit, the type of person he is, and the fact that he has some anger issues, and we already can tell that from previous episodes, but this further signifies that. So then we go over to the bank, which of course ended off last episode with Wyatt being penetrated through the stomach with a pipe after a bomb went off from the dead killers that they finished off in that little shootout, and walkers are surrounding the bank, of course. So the characters that are here are Kenny, Clementine, Sarah, Rebecca, Roman, Lily, Darius, Aaron, Omid, Shell, Vince, Tavia, Bonnie, and of course Wyatt, who is penetrated into this pipe on the wall. Bonnie, Tavia, and Darius try to help out Wyatt as the others use everything they can to block the doors to stop the walkers from coming through. Wyatt is stuck hard. There's no way to pull him off successfully. Bonnie says they can't rip him off. She says the pipe is the only thing keeping his blood together. If we get him out, he'll bleed out. Bonnie says they have to cut the pipe, but keep the part that's still in him there until they can safely get him somewhere with enough supplies to pull it out. Shell asks if she already has some supplies to use, and Bonnie says not enough for a procedure like this. Aaron says there's got to be a hospital or something nearby, and Bonnie says they don't have all day for this shit, so there's no way they're waiting. Bonnie is completely panicking over what the hell to do. Tavia is nearly crying next to Wyatt as she sees him in constant pain. Bonnie says there's nothing she can do. Tavia starts yelling at Bonnie and says she has to try, and Bonnie says she doesn't have the proper supplies for this shit. Clem questions if maybe the killers have supplies. Well, she doesn't say the word killers, of course. I'm just using the name killers as a way. She says those people pretty much. I just use the word killers just to make it easier for us, but I'm not having the killers phrase being used in the show at all because I just feel like it's a really cringy name for a group. I don't want this group to have a name at all. It's just easier for me and easier for you guys to notify who they are by calling them the killers. So Clem says that she asks that that group has supplies, maybe if they have it or not, maybe on them, even in their trucks. And since they have advanced weaponry, they might have advanced medical supplies as well. And Tavia says we can't just surrender to them. And Clem says not all of them, just Wyatt. Clem says they clearly weren't trying to kill them before, they wanted them alive. Bonnie says they'll need to have the supplies with them, otherwise he'll be done by the time they bring him back to the base. The group is debating as to whether or not they should take that chance. Meanwhile, Molly, Nick, and Jordan scope out the base from the outside. Molly tells them to stay put and keep an eye out on that exit. She says she knows where the guards stay. She can handle this herself. She just needs someone out here to walkie her if anything changes. Jordan and Nick agree as Molly heads out with her suppressed sniper rifle and suppressed handgun. Inside the base, Calvin is really debating how to handle this situation, as many of the killers are off on search parties for the group to kill them all. Molly goes to a specific portion of the exterior of the military base. It is raining and thundering outside now. She times her shot exactly with the thunder to shoot and kill the guard, so it's less of a noise. Even though she's using suppressors still make a noise, so she wants to mask that noise completely, even if the noise is silenter than an actual gunshot from a non-suppressed weapon. She then climbs up a tree next to the base and jumps from one of the branches to the guard tower right beside it. She's now in the guard tower, on top of it, looking at the rest of the base. Of course, the guard that she just shot was up there, and she hides the body in a little closet that's up on this guard tower. She sees tons of killers at guard posts and just walking around the base itself. Back at the bank, the walkers start to break through to their defenses, so the group has to fight some of them back. The group go melee heavy on them, but they are soon outnumbered, so they back up and use their guns to take them all out. Many of them run out of ammo completely, but they do kill them all. The group continue to try to get Wyatt off this pipe, and they continue on with this as in the distance, Darius is looking through binoculars, and he sees trucks of killers coming. He says they have to go now. Clem says they have to just leave Wyatt. It's his best chance. Tavia and Bonnie are very hesitant about this, and Tavia says she is not taking that chance as she starts pulling Wyatt out, and Wyatt passes out from the pain. He is screaming. The group is getting ready to leave out the back. They have all their stuff as Bonnie tries to get Tavia to come on and just leave him, but Tavia keeps pulling on Wyatt, and as she eventually rips him right off the pipe, and Wyatt falls onto Tavia with his guts pouring out all over her. His stomach is basically ripped open, and Wyatt, he's dead. They can't wake him up. She tries to wake him up, but he's dead. She literally just pulled open his guts all over her, and he's sitting there dead. And Tavia is broken about this. Even Bonnie is as well. But Bonnie just grabs Tavia and says they have to go. Last minute, they all leave out the back and move on down the road as the killer's trucks make it into the town itself that has all these different buildings. And they don't particularly go to the bank, but they're near the bank. Back at the base, Nick and Jordan talk while scouting out the outside of the base. Nick asks Jordan more about this group, and Jordan basically tells him that the place is god-awful. They do a lot of torturing just to get you to follow their ways. They break people, which turns them into loyal soldiers. Jordan asks Nick if that's his girl, referring to Molly, of course, and Nick says, not completely, but kinda, maybe a little bit. Molly sneaks through the base. She hides behind some fuel tanks and waits for a few guys to pass as she walks in through a door leading to one of the buildings. The building she is now in is dark and empty, just full of long hallways. She pulls out her suppressed pistol and takes her time going through. Calvin interrogates Dave. He tells him his people are going to be killed on the spot, and they will find them. Unless he tells them exactly where they are, then he'll tell his people to give them mercy and maybe bring them back here. Dave says he smells right through his bullshit, and Calvin calls him a smart kid as he has him tossed back into his cell. Calvin gets to his daily training routine, which includes insane martial arts and gun training as well as weightlifting. This is the first time we see Calvin in his prime state, and he's actually ripped and very skilled with guns. He's clearly more of a physical threat than Carver. Back in the town, the group make it to a post office, and they hold up there as Rebecca becomes exhausted and Roman's leg is killing him. Tavia is still in complete shock over what just happened with Wyatt, and Bonnie tries to help keep her sanity as Aaron says they cannot sit around here for long. Vince and Shell are also there to comfort Tavia as Bonnie has to help out with Roman's wound, of course. Sarah is having a bit of a panic attack as Clem calms her down and basically parents her. Kenny is still zoning out into nothingness as Omid checks on him, and Kenny tells the group that he can distract them and lead these killers into a different direction. Of course, again, not using the word killers. He says they can lead this group into another direction. Clem says it's crazy, but Kenny says it'll give them a much easier shot to escape. Rebecca says they ain't splitting up. She can handle herself. They don't need to slow down for her. Roman says he'll be alright as well. Omid asks what about the others. He says they won't know where to find them, and Darius says they could return back to the bank after they are all gone from checking this town. They just need to get out of here for now. So the group all get up and continue down the road quietly. Back at the base, Molly walks down the hallways of the building she entered. She hides in a room and notices a man sitting at his desk. She quickly pulls up her suppressed pistol, puts 2 shots into the guy's chest and then 1 to the head. She checks out the room and noticed he was just writing a book. Almost like he was just hanging around, not really doing much of importance that had to do with the community like she expected. Molly continues down the halls as she finds a window that peers out into the courtyard, which has the doors that lead into the prison cells. This area is highly guarded. She walkies to Nick and Jordan and says she needs a way to get some of the guards off their post. Maybe if there's a distraction of some sort that they can make, maybe like, I don't know, light a building on fire, light a house on fire, just don't get caught. Molly says that she needs this for her sake, so please do it. And Nick asks how the hell they're going to do that, and Molly says, just look around, you'll find something. Molly continues searching around the building that she's in as Nick and Jordan search around some houses in the neighborhood outside of the base. Nick finds fuel tanks in one of the houses, and he uses it to lead a trail of gas into the backyard, then uses a lighter that he found to light it, and he runs off with Jordan down the road. The fire sets off and the house begins to burn. Of course, the house is able to burn now because the rain stopped. It's not raining anymore. It's still lightning out, but it's not raining anymore. Jane is brought to a torture chamber where she's being hooked up to machines. She's going to be electrocuted beyond belief. But there's only 3 guys in this room, so when they are trying to set her down in the chair before they're actually able to handcuff her, she quickly takes this as an opportunity to grab a syringe from the counter and stab it into one guy and kick the other guy, grab his gun, and shoot the 3rd guy. Molly hears the gunshot, as does the prisoners, as does Calvin. But Stu comes up to Calvin and notifies him that there's a house burning out in the outskirts. He tells him to get a group on it now. Molly sees some guards leaving their post. Calvin then asks Stu about who shot a gun, and Stu says it was probably whoever the hell did that out there with the house. Jane is now free. She uses the man's keys to get out of the torture room she was brought into, and she now has his Glock, and she moves through the hallways with it up. Molly finds the generators outside. They are guarded by 2 guys, but she easily comes out and kills both these guys with her pistol. She shuts down the power to the place completely, which makes it pitch black. Calvin and Stu just assume the power's out because of the lightning. Maybe it struck one of the generators, but they are busy checking out this fire, so they don't worry about it. Jordan and Nick hide in a treehouse of a house's backyard. Jane is now in these hallways where it is pitch black and she can't see a thing. She starts to hear growling as she finds a flashlight on a mechanic table. She uses the flashlight to find a group of fenced-in walkers in the hallway, likely walkers they use to keep further challenges that they do every now and then. Jane moves on down the halls. Molly makes it to the main building where the cells are. She enters through a door and comes across a lounge room with some guys hanging out in it with some candles for light. Molly peeks in and sees at least 10 guys, so she quickly moves past that door and moves on as one of the guys says he's going to go take a piss. Molly waits for this guy to leave and head down the hallway as she comes from behind him with a knife and slits his throat. Molly hides the guy's body in a closet and she moves on. Calvin, Stu, and over 20 other killers check out this fire with their guns. They don't see anything or anyone nearby. Stu says if they don't take this out, it could burn down a whole surrounding area. But Calvin says to hold on just a bit, and the rain starts again, and he says, well, the rain will handle it for them because he knew it was raining out before, so it's probably going to rain again, so they don't have to waste any resources on trying to take out the fire, which the rain does it itself. But Jordan and Nick still successfully did what they were supposed to do, which was distract them, which allowed Molly to get into the building. Back in the town, the group make it to a house down the road outside of the town. They stay in there and get comfortable. Lily says she'll keep watching. Kenny goes out there with her. Lily asks him how he's holding up, and he says he wants to kill something. He knows it sounds fucked up, and he ain't looking to kill any of his family today. And Lily's really surprised to hear him even say the word family to people like this. But Kenny's like just really odd, and Lily notices that. But then he says that honestly, the only person he really wants to kill right now, really slowly, is Carver for what he did to Sarita. And Lily is really uncomfortable with this whole conversation because she knows she was the one to actually kill Sarita. Molly makes it to the cells as she kills one guy outside of the cells. She goes in and sees the only three in their cells are, of course, Luke, Blake, and Dave. She asks him where Jane is, and Luke is incredibly surprised to see Molly. Of course, we know that Luke knew Molly because he was back in house before, of course, and Molly was there when he was there before he met Clementine and all that. Luke says they took Jane for torturing like 20 minutes ago, but just then, Jane comes into the room and finds them. Molly and Jane hug, and Luke is confused by this and asks if they are sisters, and she says yes. Blake says that's all nice, but they gotta go now. Luis checks on the guys near the generator area, and he can't find them as he notices their bodies hiding in bushes next to it. Of course, Molly hid their bodies there. Luis alerts Calvin. The killers all return to the main building, but the prisoners are gone. The group has made it to the armory, and they gear up with all sorts of weapons and move through the building, destroying as much shit as possible. Like, they toss grenades down the hallway, set things on fire, shoot up generators, everything. And they reach the roof of this base, and they see the helicopter. And Jane says, none of them know how to fly, I assume, so where the hell are we going to go? They had to go to the roof because it was the only way they could go because they were being surrounded by killers, so that's why they went to the roof. But they see the helicopter, and Blake ends up saying he actually kind of does know a little bit how to fly. And the group is surprised, but Blake says he was in flying school for a little bit before he quit, but he still knows the basics. And Molly says it's good enough, so they hop in. But Molly also says that they came in with Nick and Jordan, so Luke is happy to hear that Nick is okay, but Molly has to walkie them and tell them that they need to start heading back and they may not be able to pick them up as they are still hiding in the treehouse. They all decide to hop onto the chopper as killers come to the rooftop. Luke, Jane, Molly, and Dave shoot them up with their insane new weapons that they got from the armory, including some crazy-ass light machine gun that Luke has and that they got from the armory, and they got the M16s and stuff like that, all crazy-ass guns that they use to shoot up the killers that come through the door leading to the top. And Blake gets the chopper flying in the air. He lifts off and heads away as he notices they are being locked on. He gets pretty far just as the helicopter is hit with a javelin missile and the helicopter starts to come crashing down. Of course, it is still nighttime. It's still lightning out. He tells everyone to hold the fuck on as the helicopter is now crashing, and it crash lands into an open field nearby. And most of the killers on their search party return to the base to see the mayhem that unfolded, and Calvin yells at his people to not stop looking for them. One group is still out there, though, as they come across the neighborhood of houses outside of the town, and the group is about 5 guys. Lily and Kenny are hiding behind a couch on the porch of this house that their group is in. But this killer's group keeps moving on as the leader says he really doesn't feel like checking all these houses, so they continue down the road. They're slowly moving with the truck as 2 guys are outside of the truck, just kind of like next to it, looking around. They're moving really slowly. Back at the helicopter crash, everyone starts to wake up as Luke looks to his side and suddenly is grabbed by Blake. Blake is a walker. He's dead. He died in the crash. Luke is stuck in place as the walker almost bites him, but Jane is able to get her hands free and stab Blake in the face with her knife, of course. Everyone else is okay, though, except for just being very hurt and cut up overall. They get out of the helicopter as they are in the middle of a large field. It is raining again, lightning, and they look around. It is very, very dark. There's cornfields nearby. This is the same farm field area that we saw in season 3, episode 2, where Lily was there earlier. Remember that? She was there with Troy, and they're at the same exact field with the mountains nearby. And it is dark. Cornfields are there, and there's walkers surrounding the area. Not like a herd, but we're talking just like scattered throughout the fields. And they're just sitting there, and we get this awesome pan-out shot of them standing at this helicopter crash, looking off into the distance. And that is the end of episode 9. just a little teaser for episode 10, which I will try to get out as soon as possible. Episode 10 is going to only focus on this group at the helicopter crash, as well as Nick and Jordan, who are still in that treehouse. Well, they left and they're going to head back. We're going to see some Nick and Jordan, as well as the killers and what's going on there. But we're not going to see the group that is, Kenny, Lily, Omid, Aaron, Clementine. We're not going to see that group that is at that house. And the reason being is because I really want to do these sort of episodes just so we can give some characters some more breathing room and some more development. And specifically, I want to give these characters we have here some more development. And then episode 11 will show off what's happening with that group back at the house, and we'll see that group only. And then episode 12, we're going to see somehow some mixing of these different groups together. You'll see what's going to happen. And then it's going to, go off for the rest of the season, some crazy ass shit. Expect some sort of a massive couple episodes later on towards the end of the season. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.